Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the TSS Aurora, Earth's most advanced deep space vessel, watching the stars drift by in silent vigil. The ship's quantum engines hummed softly, a sound that had become as familiar as her own heartbeat over the past 3 years of deep space exploration. But today, that peaceful hum was interrupted by an alert that would change everything. "Captain, we're detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the Kuiper Belt." Lieutenant David Nash called from his sensor station, his dark fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Nothing like we've seen before." Chen turned from the viewport, her expression carefully neutral despite the sudden spike of adrenaline. "Show me." The main display lit up with a cascade of data, showing energy readings that defied conventional physics. Whatever they were detecting wasn't using any known form of propulsion or power generation. As she studied the readings, more alerts began to sound across the bridge. "Multiple signatures now," Nash reported, his voice tightening. "Hundreds. No, thousands of them. They're moving in formation, Captain." Commander Jack Torres, her first officer, moved to stand beside her. "First contact," he whispered, voicing what everyone was thinking. "Looks like it," Chen replied quietly. Then louder, "Sound general quarters. I want all hands at battle stations. Just because we're explorers doesn't mean we'll be caught unprepared." The Aurora's corridors filled with the controlled chaos of a well-trained crew responding to their captain's orders. In the 3 years since launching from Earth's orbital shipyards, they had never needed to go to full battle stations. But Chen had insisted on regular drills, earning her a reputation as overly cautious. Now that caution was about to pay off. "Dr. Wong to the bridge." Chen called over the ship's comm. If anyone could make sense of these readings, it would be their chief scientist. Minutes later, Dr. Maya Wong hurried onto the bridge, her silver-streaked hair escaping its usual tight bun. She took one look at the sensor data and let out a soft curse in Mandarin. "Captain, these energy signatures, they're operating on principles we've only theorized about. Whoever they are, they're far more advanced than us." "How many ships are we looking at exactly?" Chen asked, keeping her voice steady. Nash swallowed hard before answering. "Final count, 1,000 vessels, Captain. They're arranging themselves in a sphere formation. We're being surrounded." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. 1 ship against 1,000. Even with the Aurora's advanced technology, those odds were beyond impossible. "Sir," Communications Officer Aisha Patel's voice cut through the tension. "We're receiving a transmission. It's different from anything in our databases, but the universal translator is processing it." "Put it through," Chen ordered, straightening her uniform. The voice that filled the bridge was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It spoke in perfect English, but with an artificial quality that sent chills down everyone's spine. "Vessels of the species designated as human, we are the Nexus Collective. Your existence has been noted as an anomaly in this sector. Your technological advancement curve exceeds predicted parameters. This represents an unacceptable variable in our calculations. You will be eliminated." The message ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "They didn't even give us a chance to respond," Torres muttered, his fists clenched at his sides. Chen's mind raced through their options. The Aurora was the most advanced ship humanity had ever built, incorporating experimental quantum technology that even their own scientists didn't fully understand. But against 1,000 ships, the logical choice would be to retreat, to warn Earth and the colonies about this new threat. But something about the collective's message nagged at her. They saw humanity as an unacceptable variable. They spoke of calculations and parameters, treating life itself like a math problem to be solved. "Dr. Wong," Chen called out, "what do you make of their technology?" The scientist was still studying the sensor readings, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's incredibly advanced, but rigid. Their ships all use exactly the same energy signature, down to the quantum level. It's like they're running on the same program, with no variations or adaptations." Like a hive mind? Torres suggested. More like a single massive computer network, Wang replied. Efficient, but potentially predictable. Chen nodded slowly, an idea forming. And how would a computer network handle an unexpected variable? Something that doesn't fit its calculations. A small smile crossed Wang's face as she caught the captain's meaning. It would have to recalculate every scenario, with enough unexpected variables. We could overwhelm their processing capability, Chen finished. She turned to face her crew, seeing the mix of fear and determination in their eyes. These were the finest officers in the Earth Space Force, handpicked for humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. They had signed up to be explorers, but today they would have to be warriors. Lieutenant Nash, how long until the alien fleet is in weapons range? 10 minutes at their current speed, Captain. Chen nodded, making her decision. Send a message to Earth Command. Full situation report, including all our sensor data on the Nexus Collective. She paused, then added, Tell them that the TSS Aurora is standing its ground. We won't let these aliens reach Earth. Captain. Torres stepped closer, lowering his voice. That's a suicide mission, even with our advanced technology. Maybe, Chen cut him off. Or maybe we're about to show these aliens why they shouldn't have dismissed humanity as just another variable in their calculations. She turned to address the entire bridge crew. I won't order any of you to stay. This isn't what we signed up for. Anyone who wants to take the escape pods has my permission. The response was immediate. Not a single crew member moved from their station. The message is away, Paddle reported proudly. Earth Command acknowledges receipt. They're mobilizing the fleet, but the nearest ships are 3 days away. Then we'll have to hold out for 3 days, Chen said with a grim smile. She sat in her command chair, feeling the familiar comfort of its worn leather. Dr. Wang, I want you working with engineering. Find ways to make our quantum systems do things they weren't designed to do. Lieutenant Nash, analyze their formation for any weaknesses. Commander Torres, prepare all weapons systems. The crew jumped into action, their training kicking in despite the unprecedented situation. Chen watched them with pride, knowing that win or lose, they were about to show the Nexus Collective exactly what humans were capable of. All hands, she announced shipwide. This is the captain. In about 9 minutes, we're going to engage an alien fleet that outnumbers us 1,000 to 1. They think they can calculate every possible outcome of this battle. They think they know exactly what we're capable of. They're wrong. Throughout human history, we faced impossible odds and survived because we refused to be bound by what others think is possible. We're about to give these aliens a lesson in human ingenuity. As her words echoed through the ship, the first shots of the battle were about to begin. The TSS Aurora, humanity's finest vessel, prepared to make its stand against an overwhelming alien force. But numbers alone don't determine the outcome of battles. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon isn't technology or firepower, but the unpredictable, indomitable spirit of a species that refuses to go quietly into the night. The battle for humanity's survival was about to begin, and Captain Sarah Chen intended to make it one the Nexus Collective would never forget. The quantum drive of the TSS Aurora thrummed with power as Chief Engineer Raj Patel worked frantically at his station, his hands flying over the controls. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he pushed the experimental systems far beyond their tested limits. Dr. Wang, I'm seeing some strange readings from the quantum matrix, he called out to the scientist working beside him. The containment field is showing patterns I've never seen before. Dr. Maya Wang studied the readouts, her eyes widening. The alien fleet's presence is affecting our quantum field. Their unified network is creating some kind of resonance effect. She paused, a spark of inspiration in her eyes. Captain, I think we might have something. On the bridge, Captain Chen leaned forward in her chair. Explain. Their ships operate as a single network, right? Well, our quantum drive operates on principles of uncertainty and probability. What if we could use that to our advantage? Create a field of quantum instability around our ship. You want to weaponize uncertainty itself, Chen said, understanding dawning. Make us unpredictable at the quantum level. Exactly, Wang replied, excitement clear in her voice. Their unified network relies on perfect calculations. We introduce enough quantum uncertainty into the equation, and their calculations become meaningless, Chen finished. She turned to Torres. Commander, how long until they're in weapons range? 2 minutes, Captain. They're moving to surround us completely. Chen nodded grimly. Dr. Wang, Engineer Patel, you have 1 minute to implement your plan. Everyone else, battle stations. Let's show these aliens what happens when they try to predict the unpredictable. The next 60 seconds were a blur of activity. Throughout the ship, crew members secured themselves at their stations, weapons systems powered up, and shields hummed to life. In engineering, Wang and Patel worked with desperate speed to modify the quantum drive. Quantum field reconfigured. Paddle reported just as the first alien ships came into range. But Captain, I should warn you. This modification could tear the ship apart if we're not careful. Noted, Chen replied calmly. Tactical status of the alien fleet. Lieutenant Nash's voice was tense but professional. They're maintaining perfect formation, Captain. Energy readings suggest they're charging weapons. Of course they are, Chen muttered. Then louder, helm, prepare for evasive maneuvers. But not standard patterns. I want random, unpredictable movements. Let's give them something their calculations can't handle. The first volley from the alien fleet lit up space like artificial lightning. Thousands of energy beams converged on the Aurora's position, or where they calculated the Aurora would be. But the human ship was already moving, its trajectory defying conventional physics thanks to the modified quantum drive. Direct hits to enemy vessels confirmed. Nash called out excitedly. 3 ships destroyed. No, 5. They fired on their own vessels trying to hit us. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The plan was working. The Nexus Collective's perfect coordination was becoming a weakness. Their unified targeting systems couldn't adapt fast enough to the Aurora's quantum-enhanced movements, causing their shots to hit their own ships. But the aliens weren't defeated yet. Their massive fleet began to adapt, breaking into smaller groups, trying new formations. The space around the Aurora became a deadly dance of energy beams and quantum distortions. Hull breach on Deck 4. Torres reported as a glancing hit shook the ship. Emergency containment fields holding. Engineering, status of the quantum drive. Chen demanded. The containment field is starting to destabilize, Paddle replied, his voice strained. We can't maintain this level of quantum uncertainty much longer without risking a catastrophic collapse. Chen studied the tactical display, watching the patterns of the alien fleet's movement. They were learning, adapting, but not fast enough. Not yet. Dr. Wang, is there any way to expand the quantum field? Make it affect their ships directly. There was a moment of silence as Wang calculated the possibilities. Yes, I think so. If we modify the field harmonics, we might be able to create a cascade effect in their network. But Captain, it would mean pushing our systems way beyond safety limits. Do it, Chen ordered without hesitation. All hands, braced for extreme maneuvers. Helm, take us right into the heart of their formation. The Aurora plunged forward, its quantum-enhanced movements making it appear to blink in and out of normal space. The alien fleet's perfect formation began to break down as their unified network struggled to process the impossible sensor readings. Energy spike in their command ships, Nash reported. They're trying to compensate for the quantum interference. Their network is becoming unstable. Wang's voice cut through the chaos. Captain, the quantum cascade is working. Their network can't handle the uncertainty. It's creating a feedback loop in their systems. The tactical display showed the results. Alien ships began to move erratically. Their perfect coordination shattered. Some fired randomly into space, others crashed into each other, and still others simply shut down, their systems overwhelmed by the quantum chaos. But the victory came at a cost. The Aurora shuddered violently as its own systems struggled to contain the expanding quantum field. Structural integrity failing. Torres shouted over the sound of straining metal. We've got multiple hull breaches. Power systems critical. Engineering, give me options. Chen demanded, gripping her chair as another tremor rocked the ship. We need to shut down the quantum drive now, Paddle replied urgently. Any longer, and we risk a complete core breach. Chen watched the tactical display, counting the remaining enemy ships. They had destroyed or disabled nearly 300 of the 1,000-ship fleet, but the rest were still a deadly threat. Yet if they didn't shut down now, they wouldn't survive to continue the fight. Shut it down, she ordered finally. All hands, prepare for emergency maneuvers. This battle's not over yet. We've just shown them that humanity isn't as predictable as they thought. As the quantum field collapsed and normal space reasserted itself around the Aurora, Captain Chen knew they had achieved something remarkable. They had proven that human ingenuity and adaptability could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. But with their primary advantage now gone and hundreds of alien ships still surrounding them, they would need to find new ways to survive. The real test was just beginning. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across the Aurora's bridge as damage reports flooded in from all decks. The ship's quantum gambit had taken a devastating toll on both sides of the battle. Captain Chen watched the tactical display through the haze of smoke from burned-out circuits, calculating their next move. Status report, she ordered, her voice hoarse from shouting commands over the chaos of the past hour. Commander Torres consulted his flickering console. Main power at 40%. Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, contained by emergency fields. Medical reports 17 casualties, 3 critical. We've lost our starboard weapons array and long-range communications are offline. And the enemy? Lieutenant Nash wiped blood from a cut above his eye as he responded. We confirmed 312 kills or disabled ships. The remaining fleet is regrouping. But they're different now. Their formations are less rigid, more unpredictable. They're learning, Dr. Wong said quietly from her temporary station on the bridge. Our quantum attack forced their network to adapt. They're developing individual ship behaviors to compensate for the uncertainty we introduced. Chen nodded grimly. They had bloodied the Nexus Collective's nose, but in doing so, they might have made them even more dangerous. The alien ships were now moving with a fluidity that seemed almost organic, their previous mechanical precision replaced by something more intuitive. Captain, Engineer Patel's voice crackled through the damaged comm system. I've got something you need to see. Can you come to engineering? Chen glanced at Torres, who nodded. I have the bridge, Captain. The journey to engineering revealed the true extent of the damage. Crew members worked frantically to repair damaged systems, their faces streaked with soot and determination. The Aurora had been built to take punishment, but she had never been meant to stand alone against such overwhelming odds. Engineering was a maze of exposed circuits and emergency repair crews. Patel stood before the quantum core, its usual brilliant blue glow now a sickly purple. Dr. Wong joined them, having followed the captain down. Look at this, Patel said, pulling up a holographic display. When we created that quantum uncertainty field, we didn't just disrupt their network. We collected data. Lots of it. The display showed streams of alien code, mathematical patterns that seemed to twist in impossible ways. Dr. Wong's eyes widened as she studied the data. This is their base programming, she breathed. The fundamental algorithms that control their entire fleet. Exactly, Patel nodded. And I found something interesting. Their network isn't just about coordination. It's about processing power. Each ship contributes to their collective computing capacity. The more ships they lose, the dumber they get, Chen finished, understanding dawning. That's why they're adapting with individual behaviors. They're compensating for reduced processing power. A violent explosion rocked the ship before anyone could respond. Chen grabbed a nearby railing to steady herself as Torres's voice came through the comm. "Captain, to the bridge. They're launching a new attack." When Chen arrived back on the bridge, she found chaos. The tactical display showed the remaining alien ships executing a series of complex maneuvers unlike anything they'd seen before. "Multiple targeting solutions," Nash called out. "They're not focusing fire anymore. Each ship is choosing its own attack vector." The Aurora shuddered under a barrage of hits. These weren't the coordinated volleys from before, but rather a constant stream of individual attacks that made traditional evasive maneuvers nearly impossible. "Shields failing," Torres reported. "We can't take much more of this." Chen watched the tactical display, her mind racing. The aliens had adapted to their quantum trick, but in doing so, they'd revealed a crucial weakness. Their strength had always been their unity. Now they were being forced to act independently, and that meant, "Dr. Wong," she called out, "if their processing power is distributed across the fleet, what happens if we target their primary command nodes, the ships with the highest energy signatures?" Wong's fingers flew across her console. "In theory, it would force even more ships to operate independently. But Captain, those would be their most heavily defended vessels, and they'll be expecting us to target them," Torres added. Chen smiled grimly. "No, they'll be calculating that we'll target them. There's a difference." She turned to address the bridge crew. "Listen carefully. We don't have the firepower to win a straight fight anymore. But we don't need to. We just need to force them to keep adapting until their network fragments completely." She moved to the tactical station, studying the enemy formation. "Here's what we're going to do. Engineering, I want you to bring the quantum drive back online, but not for uncertainty fields this time. We're going to use it for short, controlled jumps. Tactical, prepare all remaining weapons. We're going to hit them with everything we have, but not where they expect." "The quantum drive is barely stable," Patel warned through the comm. "We might get 3 jumps at most before it fails completely." "Then we make them count," Chen replied. She opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. What we're about to attempt is either brilliant strategy or pure insanity. Probably both. But that's humanity's greatest strength, our ability to walk the line between genius and madness. Secure all stations and prepare for extreme maneuvers." The alien fleet was closing in, their ships moving with deadly purpose. They had adapted to the humans' previous tactics, but they were about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower. It was their ability to choose the unexpected, to embrace chaos when logic failed. "All stations report ready," Torres announced. Chan took her command chair, feeling the ship's damaged systems humming around her. They were wounded, outnumbered, and running out of options. But sometimes, she thought, those were the best conditions for a miracle. "Begin attack pattern Omega," she ordered. "Let's show these aliens what happens when they force humanity to get creative." Attack pattern Omega began with a lie. As the Aurora's remaining weapons powered up, their targeting systems locked onto the alien fleet's command ships. Exactly what the Nexus Collective would expect. But Captain Chen had no intention of being predictable. "Quantum jump in 3, she announced, her voice steady despite the groaning of the ship's stressed hull. 2, 1, execute." The Aurora vanished in a burst of quantum energy, but instead of jumping toward the command ships, they'd reappeared behind the alien fleet's support vessels, the smaller ships that were now operating semi-independently due to the network's fragmentation. "Fire everything," Chen ordered. The Aurora's remaining weapons blazed to life, catching the alien ships completely off guard. Missiles and energy beams tore through their vulnerable rear sections, destroying dozens before they could react. "Direct hits on 37 targets," Nash reported triumphantly. "They're breaking formation." "Second jump. Now," Chen commanded. The quantum drive screamed in protest as it engaged again, throwing the ship through another impossible twist in space. This time, they emerged in the middle of the alien formation, but at an angle their calculations wouldn't expect, seemingly defying the basic laws of physics. Engineering to bridge. Patel's voice was frantic. The quantum core is destabilizing. We can't contain the reaction. Dr. Wang's fingers flew across her console. The alien fleet's proximity is affecting the quantum field. It's creating some kind of resonance pattern I've never seen before. The ship shuddered violently as space itself seemed to twist around them. On the tactical display, the alien ships closest to them began behaving erratically, their movements becoming increasingly chaotic. What's happening to them? Torres demanded. The quantum resonance, Wang explained, her eyes wide with realization. Their network relies on precise calculations, but our unstable quantum field is corrupting their data. Each ship is receiving different, conflicting information. Chen leaned forward in her chair. Can we use this? Push it further. Captain, Patel cut in. If we don't shut down the quantum drive now, we'll lose containment completely. The core will breach. But Wang's expression had changed, a dangerous glimmer in her eyes. Or we could drop containment deliberately, in a controlled way. Explain, Chen ordered. The quantum core is going to breach no matter what we do now. But if we can control how it breaches, direct the energy. Wang's fingers danced across her console, running calculations. We could create a cascading quantum wave that would corrupt their entire network simultaneously. And what happens to us if we do that? Torres asked quietly. Wang met his eyes. Best case. We lose all power and life support for several minutes. Worst case, the ship tears itself apart at the quantum level. Another hit rocked the Aurora, sending sparks flying from multiple consoles. Shields critical, Torres reported. We're losing structural integrity. Chen looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed or disabled nearly half the alien fleet, but the remaining ships were still more than enough to finish them off. And now they were adapting again, their movements becoming more coordinated as they compensated for their losses. How long until the quantum core breaches on its own? She asked Patel. 7 minutes, maybe less. And how long would we need to implement Dr. Wang's plan? 5 minutes to reconfigure the containment fields. But Captain, this is beyond theoretical. We'd be attempting something that's never even been simulated. Chen smiled grimly. Welcome to humanity, Chief. We specialize in the theoretical. She opened a shipwide channel. All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 6 minutes, we're going to attempt something that could either save Earth or tear us apart at the atomic level. Anyone who wants to reach the escape pods should do so now. No one will think less of you. She waited a moment, but no one moved from their stations. Pride swelled in her chest as she continued. Very well. Emergency teams to vital areas. Everyone else, secure yourselves as best you can. Engineering, begin containment field reconfiguration. Let's show these aliens what happens when they push humanity to our breaking point. The next 5 minutes were the longest of Chen's life. The Aurora took hit after hit as the alien fleet pressed their attack, seemingly sensing that something was wrong. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the ship as more systems failed. The bridge was lit only by emergency lighting and the glow of essential displays. Containment field reconfiguration complete, Paddle reported, his voice tight with tension. Ready on your order, Captain. Chen looked at her crew, battered, exhausted, but unbowed. They had pushed themselves and their ship beyond every reasonable limit. And now they were about to attempt something that might kill them all. But that was humanity's greatest strength, the willingness to risk everything when the stakes were high enough. Dr. Wang, she said quietly, remember what you said about their network being like one giant computer. At Wang's nod, she smiled. Let's give them a blue screen of death they'll never forget. She took a deep breath, feeling the ship shuddering around her as the quantum core approached critical levels. Everything hinged on the next few moments. Win or lose, they were about to show the Nexus Collective why you should never corner a species that thrived on beating impossible odds. "Initiate quantum core breach," she ordered. "Let's make history." Time seemed to slow as Captain Chen gave the order to breach the quantum core. In engineering, Raj Patel's hands moved across his console with deliberate precision, initiating the carefully calculated collapse of containment fields. Dr. Wang watched the quantum readings spike to impossible levels, her theories about to be tested in the most extreme way imaginable. "Quantum containment failing," Patel reported, his voice steady despite the situation. "Core breach in 10 seconds. Chen's voice carried across the bridge, clear and confident. "All hands, brace for impact. Whatever happens next, remember, we chose this moment. We chose to stand and fight." The quantum core's scream reached a pitch that made every crew member's teeth ache. Reality itself seemed to bend around the Aurora as the carefully controlled breach began. Then, in an instant that felt like eternity, everything changed. Space rippled outward from the Aurora in a wave of pure quantum chaos. The wave struck the alien fleet like a tsunami, carrying with it corrupted data and impossible calculations that their network couldn't process. Ship after ship began to fail as their unified system tried desperately to compensate for information that defied their fundamental programming. "Direct hit to their network," Wang called out, her voice barely audible over the sound of straining metal. "The cascade is working. Their ships, they're tearing themselves apart trying to process the quantum data." On the tactical display, hundreds of alien vessels began to shut down, their perfect coordination shattered by the quantum wave. Others fired wildly into space, their targeting systems corrupted beyond recovery. Still others simply vanished, their advanced drive systems overloading as they tried to compensate for the quantum interference. But the Aurora was paying a terrible price for their victory. The ship's systems failed one by one as the quantum breach consumed more power. Emergency lights flickered and died, leaving the bridge in darkness broken only by the occasional spark from overloaded circuits. "Hull integrity critical," Torres shouted over the chaos. "We're losing life support. Reroute all remaining power to essential systems," Chen ordered, holding tight to her chair as the ship shuddered violently. "Everyone into emergency suits, now." The crew worked in practiced motions, helping each other don protective gear as their ship died around them. Through it all, Chen kept her eyes on the tactical display, watching as the mighty alien fleet crumbled under the weight of humanity's desperate gambit. Enemy ships attempting to retreat, Nash reported through his suit's comm system. "They're running away." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced as another section of hull plating tore away. The Aurora was wounded, possibly mortally, but they had achieved the impossible. "Engineering," Chen called out. "Status of the quantum core." Static filled the comm for several seconds before Patel's voice came through. "Core is stabilizing, Captain. The breach is contained, but we've got nothing left. No main power, no weapons, barely enough life support to keep us breathing." "But we're alive," Chen replied, allowing herself a small smile behind her helmet's faceplate. "Status of the alien fleet." "Scattered," Nash reported with satisfaction, reading multiple drive signatures heading out of the system. "The few ships still functional are retreating at maximum speed. The rest," he paused, checking his readings, "over 700 destroyed or disabled. The rest are running." Dr. Wang's voice came through the comm, filled with wonder. "They couldn't handle it. The quantum cascade forced their network to try to process too many impossible variables at once. Their perfect unity became their perfect weakness." "Captain," Torres called out suddenly, "I'm picking up new signatures at the edge of the system. It's the Earth Defense Fleet. They made it." Chen closed her eyes for a moment, relief washing over her. They had done it. They had held the line long enough for reinforcements to arrive. More importantly, they had shown the Nexus Collective something they had never encountered before, a species that refused to be bound by calculations and probabilities. The next few hours passed in a blur of rescue operations and emergency repairs. The Earth Defense Fleet secured the system, collecting data from the disabled alien ships, while medical teams treated the Aurora's wounded crew. Captain Chen stood at her favorite viewport, now cracked and reinforced by emergency force fields, watching the cleanup operation. Commander Torres joined her, his suit scorched but intact. Engineering says it will take months to repair all the damage, maybe years to fully understand what we did to the quantum core. Chen nodded. But we'll learn from it. We'll be better prepared next time. You think they'll be back? Eventually, she replied. But next time they won't see us as just another variable in their calculations. They'll remember the day one human ship stood against 1,000 and changed their perfect equations forever. Torres was quiet for a moment, then said, "The crew of the disabled alien ships, they're different now. Without the network, they're developing individual behaviors, individual thoughts. Dr. Wong thinks we might have actually freed them from some kind of artificial control." Ironic, Chen mused. In trying to eliminate us as an unacceptable variable, they ended up becoming more like us instead. She turned away from the viewport to face her first officer. "Have you seen the latest transmission from Earth Command? They're already talking about incorporating our quantum breach data into new defensive systems. Humanity will be ready if the collective returns." "And the Aurora?" Chen smiled, touching the scared bulkhead affectionately. "We'll rebuild her, better than before. After all, that's what humans do. We take the impossible, break it down, and build something new from the pieces." As repair ships swarmed around the battered but unbowed Aurora, Captain Chen reflected on the battle that had just changed the course of human history. They had faced extinction and responded with innovation. They had met overwhelming force with desperate creativity. They had proved that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their weapons, but in their unwavering spirit and their ability to defy the impossible. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and challenging, but no longer threatening. Humanity had proved itself against the best the galaxy could throw at them. They had showed every watching species that Earth would not go quietly, would not bow to calculations and predictions. They had proved that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe wasn't logic or numbers, but the sheer, unstoppable determination of a species that refused to accept defeat. The battle was over. The legend was just beginning.